What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Michael Experience Podcast. I'm your orator and originator, Michael, and these are my thoughts, my life, my way. So, we're still in the My Story series where I'm taking you through some of my greatest lessons in love and in life. And so, we're going to continue the journey. So, I told you in the last episode about my biggest betrayal and kind of what I learned and what I felt leaving that. And I alluded to having a longer relationship that really changed a lot about the way that I feel about being loved and also the way that I give love. And it is the relationship that has forever changed me in so many good ways. So let's just go ahead on and get into that. So I was in a relationship, most recent relationship, for about 5.5 years. And so for context, I entered into the relationship in 2018, into 2018, beginning of 2019, somewhere in between there. Yeah, because it was around Christmas and New Year's. Okay, so like 2019, let's just say 2019, and then we broke up in 2023. We broke up in 2023. Um, but it's so interesting how things happen with this gentleman. So I was at a point in my life where I had just come off of having a roster, which is really me just having like a group of men that I would hang out with for whatever I needed to hang out with them for. You know, some of it we was doing grown folks business, some of it we was just kicking it or whatever, but I always had like people on roster that I could just kick it with. And I did that for about 8 or 9 months. I want to say 8 or 9 months. I want to say around my birthday, I kind of felt some type of way in 2018, somewhere around the end of 2018. Like I started feeling some type of way. Not even the end, around my birthday, which is in August. I started feeling some type of way. Like I was like, dang, like I'm spending time with these dudes or whatever, but it's going nowhere. I was like, this is gonna go nowhere. Like there's no end game for it. I don't want to be in relationship with any of them. And I'm not really sure if any of them want to be in a relationship with me, because we haven't talked about it. But these eight or so months were very formative for me because I had been in a relationship prior to that. And we ended up together for like 2 years, maybe two and a half. And it just was like, it was a relationship that just shouldn't have happened. Like, it just was like, it was one of those like convenience type relationships, like one thing led to another and then we just were around each other all the time, and the relationship really didn't offer, it really just didn't offer anything that that a relationship should or whatever. So when I left that relationship, I kind of was like, I had been, I feel like the majority of my life, when I look back on it, I was like, I was with my daughter's mom all through high school. I got out of that situation, went through like a year, 2 years of trying to transition my mind to dating guys. And when I finally did date a guy, I dated the guy that betrayed me the worst. And then after that, like I had a series of like situationships that sometimes I thought they were going to end in relationship, and then sometimes they didn't. Um, and so then I get to this point in my life after the 2.5 year relationship, and I'm like, yo, I'm always tied down to somebody. Like, you know what I mean? Even the people before, they would lock me in for like 6 months, maybe. Like 6 months just kept being like 3 months at first was a recurring theme, and then like 6 months, and then somewhere in between 6 and 9 months, like it just never turned into anything, like really anything. So at this point, coming out of the 2.5 year thing, I was like, yo, like, I just want to, I'm going to be very honest. I honestly just wanted to have a whole phase because I was like, I'm the only person that I know my age that has not had a whole phase. Now, mind you, I'm going into my 30s at this point. Like, uh, no, I am 30 coming out of the relationship. I'm 30 coming out of that relationship. So, and then I turned 31 the year that I met my dude at the time. So, I was like, I want to have a whole phase. I've never had one. Now, for me, because I'm like OCD and I'm very kind of like I like things to be a certain way. I couldn't just meet a bunch of random people and do that. Like it just wouldn't work for me. So like I was like, well, let me just do this roster thing. You know what I'm saying? Because I had always like in my past I never talked to just one person really at a time unless like those situationships came up. But like if I wasn't identifying nobody as a partner, like I would just be like, oh hey, we kick it or whatever. But we never did anything like romantic or nothing. We just be kicking it here and there, whatever, whatever, whatever. And I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna see what's happening here. Nothing. Okay, cool. I'm gonna see what's happening. So I kind of had that kind of thing. And most of the people we just ended up just conversing for a little bit and then we moved on. So I just really was like, well, everybody else that had a hoe phase. I want to have me a hoe phase too. Finally, I wait till I get 30 to do it, right? But I couldn't. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get me a roster. So I started building my roster. You know what I mean? I got a little bit of everything in the roster, whatever. You know, I got a school teacher, couple of flight attendants, I mean, I got some government work. So I literally throughout that like 8, 9 month period, I literally had a little piece of every kind of man, you know what I'm saying? Had me a little djembe for a little bit, you know. So I had like my flavors throughout the thing and I kept about five on roster and then if one fell out, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get another one. So at the end of that, like towards my birthday in August, I started feeling like, damn, like, why do I just feel like a piece of me? Like, I just feel like this stuff is not gonna go anywhere. And like, why am I doing it? And then I'm like, well, what if these dudes really want to be with me? And then I'm just missing it because I'm just in it for whatever. So at that point, I'm like, okay, like let me just see like what's hitting with these different dudes or whatever. So at this point, like I'm hyper focused on who want to be in a relationship with me for real versus who just enjoys having a good time. So one of the dudes, like I think I could kind of tell with him. I was like, yeah, he ain't really with it because I just noticed like the way that we would communicate and stuff like that. When I was coming to him, it was cool, but him coming to me was always an issue. So I was like, yeah, that dude ain't really into me. So okay, cool, whatever. Cussed him out, went on about my business or whatever. Tried to apologize, but I still cussed his ass out. And then the other one, like he was going through some personal shit of his own, and like he was feeling some type of way he was feeling some type of way about something or another that happened. And I was like, okay, cool, you know. And me and him, we did mess around again by that time or whatever. But I was like, okay, he don't want no relationship. But then there was this other one that would cook for me. He would cook for me. He would massage my feet, do all the stuff or whatever. Like very, very like, let me cater to you. My issue with him was he was a liar. Like he would lie about stuff that just wasn't even like why are you even lying about that? Just making up shit. You know what I'm saying? Like oh I got another car and it's here or whatever and oh I just bought a house and like but you living in this apartment. Like he just told so many lies and I was like there's no need for you to even lie about the shit that you lying about. So I was like, yeah, I can't trust this motherfucker to save my soul. Like I'm not doing that. So I was like, okay, cuz man, I'm going about my business. Then you know, Jim Bay, like he lingered around the school teacher, yo, like I'm not even going front on y'all. I caught gonorrhea twice in my life, okay? Twice. Twice. Once as a teenager and then once at 30. I don't know 100% sure if it was him, but I know this is TMI, but I definitely feel like he was the one that gave it to me. It was just something about the last time I messed with him that I was just like, yeah, this is like, I feel like it gotta be you. Gotta be you. Or whatever. But anyway, so me and him, after that, I was kind of done with that situation anyway. I never said nothing to him or whatever, but I definitely feel like it was him. So anyway, then it was like Jim Bay left at the end. Jinbei, to me, like I couldn't tell if he was like down low or I don't know what to classify him as because I feel like he wasn't like hood or thuggish or nothing like that. He gave very like corporate guy, like very, very clean, very, very sterile corporate guy. You know what I'm saying? So, and almost like, listen, there's some black men that you can be around and you can probably tell that they've been whitewashed a little bit. So I got the impression from him that he was whitewashed just a bit. I was like, he probably one of them or whatever, which is, it is what it is at the end of the day. But the thing with him was, I was like, I don't know if this dude is out. I don't know what he got going on or whatever. And when we would talk about it, like he was open to having the conversations, but I just got the feeling that he just wasn't being truthful to me about what he was saying. Like he would say his family knows, but they don't talk about it. And I was like, well, they ever met anybody? So to me, like he had like a series of things going on with him that I was like, yeah, I don't even know. And I don't have the patience to try to help this dude figure out who he is. And also being with somebody like me, it's not gonna work anyway. It's not gonna work, right? Like it's not gonna work because if I'm taking you around my family and my family doesn't, they love having me bring people home because it doesn't happen very often. Like you're gonna come around my family, you're gonna feel the love from my family, you're gonna feel very open in our relationship around my family and my friend groups and stuff like that. And then on your side, you're never gonna be able to reciprocate. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, that's gonna already be an issue, or you're gonna withdraw. I just knew it was gonna be an issue. I was like, yeah, so I'm just gonna leave him alone or whatever. But he lingered around the longest or whatever, because I think he really did care about me, and I think he really did want to develop something with me or whatever. But like he was dealing with his own stuff at the time, and it just wasn't gonna work. It just was not gonna work. So I was like, okay, cool, we good on that or whatever. Cuss his ass out too though. But so I moved on from that, and like I said, this is in August around my birthday. So I'm like, okay. But by this time, also, I have started my live podcast on Facebook called LGT, which stands for Let's Go There. So at this time, I have started that podcast and I'm doing that live. And so it became like a creative outlet for me to just share my stories and talk about what I had learned. And then I also started going through therapy at the same time to, just, I was like, I need to go to therapy. I was like, I need to figure out what's going on in my life right now. It was so much happening. So I was like, this is a perfect segue. Like, you know what I mean? Because these men didn't fulfill me. I got other stuff going on that's just not. So I was like, yeah, let me just do the work. And so as I'm doing the work, like I'm uncovering things about me, but also as I'm online just talking, like I'm building an audience, and that is cathartic to build that kind of community and then to feel like a sense of value in that. So I was like, oh, okay. This is what's making me happy at this moment. I was like, this is what's meant to happen. Because I had tried to do the social media thing before, and it never took off, never took off. But this particular time, I guess it was just divine timing and alignment, because it just, one thing led to another and it just shot off, and I love doing it. I think I loved it the whole time. But I traded it for career like I've done most times in my life. I've been like, yeah, this ain't bringing me in no money though, so I'm gonna have to trade it in for career because I need my money. But as I'm doing this live every Thursday, I was doing Wednesdays, then I did Thursdays, and then I did like Thursdays and Saturdays, and then I did, Sundays at some point. So while I was doing this, of course, there were people that flirted, like just like now when I'm on TikTok or, whatever. People flirt, they hit me up in my DMs, they claim like, "Oh my God, like I love your vibe," whatever, bullshitters. Most of them, actually, all of them that have hit me in my DMs have been bullshitters. But so anyway, I'm on Facebook, I'm doing my lives or whatever. I'm just whatever. So there's this dude, he watches every week. Like he tunes in faithfully every week. Like he'll be like most of the time he was the first one logged into the videos or whatever. And he's like commenting and he's hearting and stuff like that. And then as time went on a little bit, he's like if there were ever some trolls in the comments, like he would be in there with getting with the trolls and stuff. So I remember I one day I was like, look at this dude and see who he is or whatever, because I could only see the thumbnail. So he's a very bright, fair skinned dude or whatever. So I was like, let me see this dude or whatever. So I looked at his profile picture and I remember just thinking he was drop dead gorgeous. Like very, very fair skinned dude. Like he's what people would consider conventionally attractive. Like he's like 6'3", his face is chiseled. He's thin, but he's face is chiseled, eyes are like a greenish brown, hair like swirly, and at the time he had like some burnt orange in there or whatever, and it just looked amazing. And the way he was posed in the picture, I was like, this dude is gorgeous. And I thought he was like catfish. I was like, this one in profiles where it ain't really the people or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So anyway, I went on back about my business or whatever. But like he would be in my comments every Thursday or every Saturday. And so finally, I think I hit him up. I can't remember if he hit me first. Um or what. No, he did hit me first. I remember because he put a heart in the DMs and then I hearted it back. And then we started talking. And then we just like, went back and forth about music and stuff. And then we exchanged phone numbers and stuff like that. And then we ended up FaceTiming. And I just and mind you, he's 8 years younger than me. So I really wasn't expecting nothing to come from our conversation. I thought he was gonna be a catfish. I didn't think he was gonna be him. And I also didn't expect him to just be like so cool. Like when I say I honestly believe I honestly believe like he's some sort of angel in a way because he has like I'm an energy person. He has like some of the purest energy I have ever experienced in my life. Like, I mean, his energy is so innocent and so pure, even though he's been through stuff. And even though, like, of course, he's done things like we all have, but his energy and his intentions be so on point, just like very, very thoughtful, very, very aware of how people are feeling around him. Even like to the point where I used to get mad at him because I was like, yo, you gonna put yourself to the side to help somebody else? Like you not even good. Like he was one of those kind of people. But um, so we exchanged phone numbers. This was October of 2018. This was October 2018 in the DMs, and so we were talking since then or whatever. He ended up coming for Christmas. By New Year's, he was like, I want to be with you. I knew from the moment I saw you at the airport when you walked around that beam and you was tiptoeing. Yeah, I just knew you was the one. So I was like, okay, cool. So anyway, we ended up being together for about 5.5 years after the fact. So yeah, that's about 5.5 years. Yeah, so um so where do I even begin with him? Honestly, it was so unlikely that I was just blown away by him because the things that I need from people to feel secure and to feel just comfortable, I wouldn't have expected somebody 8 years younger than me to do or whatever, or even just like the level of thoughtfulness. I just wouldn't have expected it. And it's not because I hadn't experienced dating younger or whatever, but it was really more so like I hadn't experienced this level of like just being thoughtful, like very, very like. But what I will say is like I just remember him finding like clever ways to send me stuff. I still remember like I had on like new outfits every week for the show. And one day I had mentioned something to him to him on the phone or whatever. He's like, "Oh, send me the jacket or whatever." I was like, "Oh, okay," or whatever. And I think at the same time, he had asked me if he could send me flowers one time. And so he had my address or whatever already. But I mean, he's really thoughtful. Like, may I send you flowers? I was like, yo, he is too sweet. Like, may I send you flowers? I'm like, that turned me on because I'm like, oh, he got manners and he want to send me flowers, which I ain't really never liked flowers, but I like them from you. So that happened, and then I had showed him this jacket I like. I still have it to this day, and he's like, it'll be there in 2 days, and so like it could be just something he would think of that he thought that I wanted, and he like, "It'll be there in 2 days. It'll be there in 2 days," because we were long distance at the time. So this man was literally doing stuff that I never ever experienced from anybody, and he was doing it without me asking him to. And like anytime I would either visit him or he would visit me, he would have to buy me flowers. He would always be like, "No, I'm gonna take care of." Like if we went to fast food or something, like he's like, "No, I got it." Like if we went to a bigger restaurant, of course, like most of the time I would handle it. Sometimes he would. I made more than he did or whatever, but like he was like, "No, I got it. Like, don't worry about it." And he always tried to like do something thoughtful every time we saw each other. Like every single time it was something thoughtful. And he was just like that the duration of our relationship. And so it just really kind of, I was baffled, I was miffed, I was perplexed because I couldn't understand. Like, I was like, this dude is handling business like this. And I was like, this is just so crazy. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like go with it or whatever. And I was like, I don't know what I'm signing myself up for, but okay, because I guess the part that I'm missing is like I didn't really even try to date people my age for real. For the majority of my situation, I tried. I shouldn't say I tried, but I ended up with older men at first, and then it took me some time to get to people that are around my age. So I never really, like, throughout the journey, I didn't really have a lot of people that were my age that I had dealt with like that. So now me looking at somebody younger, which this is the first time, I was like, dang, this is crazy. So anyway, I just didn't expect this to come from this person, like making having custom things made and stuff like that. It blew my mind. But what also blew my mind is like he was so attentive. Like it didn't matter. Like throughout the day, he would just like call and be like, "Hey, I just wanted to check on you," or he would text and be like, "I'm thinking about you. I just want to make sure you're good. Like, you feeling okay today?" Um, like randomly, he's like, "Go get you some coffee. Like, I want you to have some coffee." I'm like, "I can buy my own coffee," but he'll just send me like a cash app and be like, "Go get you some coffee," or "Let me buy you lunch today." Or he hit me up and like, "May I buy you lunch today?" He didn't have to ask because he had my stuff, but just him doing that, like, "May I buy you lunch today?" I was like, "What is he asking me that or whatever?" Of course you can. But it made me smile every time. I'd be blushing like, "Oh my God, like, wow." But he did that a lot. And I was just like, "Oh my goodness." And it was just the level of like the thoughtfulness that happened to that was happening, that I just was like, "Oh, this is very, very different." But he was consistent throughout the whole time that I was with him. He was very consistent the whole time with the level of thoughtfulness. Um, but the things that I really feel like, those are important. But then when you have to get real, when you have to get real with people, I think that is the biggest test. And I think at this point in my life, at almost 40, I'm realizing that a lot of people can't withstand the realness test. And this is to me where the rubber meets the road, and you really figure out if a person is willing to, um, number one, do the work to get you to open up. But number two, are they willing to open up as well so that you guys can have that synergy? This is the part where I think most people are so guarded or so jaded, so bitter about that, or just unserious about that it fails. When it's time to get real with people, a couple of things can happen, in my opinion. Like, the person can run away, the person can stay there but don't stay present and kind of shut down in it, or it can just blow up into a catastrophe and toxicity. So and of course other things can happen, but in my mind those are the ways that I'm thinking of. And so when it was time for me to really get to know him, he had a very hard time opening up to me about the deeper things. Like, there were some things that he would share, and then when I would try to go deeper with it, he wouldn't want to talk about it. Like, his whole demeanor would change. Like, I saw like he was a completely different person. I was like, okay. And at first, like, I was like, oh my God, like, this is just so like, it was giving me a headache. I was like, this is really like giving me a headache, like trying to figure this out with him or whatever. But what the difference was is like I could tell trying to talk to me about it, like there was a lot of like self judgment happening on his part, and not feeling like, if or feeling like if he told me that stuff that I would think less of him and stuff like that. And then also just like the hurt of it happening, you know what I mean? And probably I would say, if I had to guess, probably some remorse about it, like at this point too. Like, I can't believe I let myself. But I recognize, after like I tried to push a couple of times, I finally, when I got a response, like, other than like shutting down or other than like, I'm not talking about this, kind of situation, I finally got to a point where I just looked at him. I just looked at him in the eyes, I looked at his body, and I just knew. If you've ever I just knew, and I just knew. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've ever seen like a dog, and I'm not trying to say he was a dog, but like a puppy cower in a corner or something and just kind of look at you like broken in a way. You know what I'm saying? And you just like, got it. And those of y'all that don't have pets, I don't know how else to describe it to you, but I just think of it like seeing a puppy kind of cowering and looking at you with those eyes. And I was like, I just felt it emanated from him. I was like, oh, this is hurting. Like, this is literally hurting him. And so at that point, it became important for me to create a safe place for him and to just reassure him that I wasn't going anywhere and that me asking or pushing him wasn't because I wanted to it wasn't because I wanted to get the information so that I could pull away. It was to get the information because I wanted to be invited in and I also wanted to invite him in my space. And so it really, when I say it changed the way that I love and also how I am loved at the same time or can be loved at the same time, like this to me was the beginning of it because I had to start moving in a different way so that I could make him feel comfortable and also be cognizant of what he was going through at the time, and then also being true to who I was and, the way I was trying to grow us both in the relationship. And so there were some risks I took. Like, I'm gonna have to just be honest with him about, I was like, I'm gonna have to be honest with him about me. And maybe in me doing that, it will humanize us both because it's coming from nothing but a loving place. And the only thing I want to do is I don't want to shrink you. I don't want to shrink your heart. I just want to expand the love that it can hold. You know what I'm saying? So it just really was like an effort for me to be like, okay, like, and then also like I want him to be free. Like I feel free, in my life. I'm like, yo, I'm not worried about nothing. Whatever was done was done. I done freed myself from that, but I wanted him to have the same level of freedom. And it was important for me to like, he always had his own confidence. So I was just like, always like reaffirming, like, yeah, what you want to do? Like, yo, go for it. So there was nothing that he put on the table that was ever really like, you know what I mean? Like a no for me. Like if he asked me like, like, should I do this? Should I do that? I'm like, well, what do you think? Like, I want to hear what you think about it first. Like, like I'll tell you, but I want to hear what you think first so that you're not, feeling like you're doing what I told you to do or that, I guided your life for you instead of you being able to do it for yourself. So that became important for me. But the beauty in that is like, yeah, of course, like there's bumps and bruises, like not literally, but figuratively from that, because there are times where like he may have yelled at me. There are times that he lashed out at me and stuff like that. But what I will say is he definitely was aware enough to apologize, right? Because we had some knockout dragouts and he said some stuff to me that he shouldn't have said. And I was like, yo, I'm done. I am done with you. You crossed the line with me. But the beauty in it is this man, he would try all of my DMs. If I didn't answer my DMs, he sent me an email. I was like, this is crazy. I'll never forget. We got into this very, very heated situation. And I said, yeah, I was telling him, like, you going too far, you going too far. But guess I had pushed him too far too that day, with trying to get him to open up. And so he hit me where it was a little tender, and I was like, "Oh hell no, you done up and done it." And so I believe like right after he did it, and I reacted the way I did, he was like, "Oh shit," because this was a phone conversation. He immediately like started hitting my like he would hit my Instagram, I would block. He hit my Facebook, block. You know what I mean? I had already blocked him on my phone. I was like, "Oh hell no," he done pissed me off. And then I just remember like being so freaking angry. Like I was so freaking angry with him. And then my email pops up and he sent this long email. And I couldn't do nothing in that moment but be like, you know what? I took a moment, I took a breath and I called him. The moment that I called him, he was instantly like apologetic, very, very sincere. He's like, I know that was too far. Like, I should have never said that. I will never do that again. And he never did. He never did that again. Um, and he understood me or whatever. Like he understood like how that hurt, and he changed his behavior instantly, and he never went back to it, never did it again, nothing like that. And I think that's purposeful, and I think that's intentional. You know what I'm saying? When you've done something to somebody that you love, or you claim that you know, you want to be, at the time he wanted to marry me. And so I think that you automatically go back into that mode like, oh my God, I messed this up. I need to fix it. And he never made the same mistake again. But in that moment, right, he learned something about me. I learned something about me. And then, I mean, of course, we learned something about each other, but it opened up something. I think every time there's like a dust up or a storm or something in a situation, like things go haywire for a minute. But when you really are centered in love, um it calms down, and then you figure out like what made it happen, and you figure out how to stay away from it again, you know what I'm saying? But I felt like we had some of those moments, but then we started really like opening up to each other, because the thing that I didn't know it was doing at the time was those moments created a safe space for me, because I had always been very guarded with, like, I'll share things that I'm comfortable sharing with people. I'll be like, if I'm used to sharing, I'm like, oh, there you go. You know what I mean? And I share things, and there's not really a lot of shame attached to anything that I've done or whatever. It just kind of is what it is at this point in my life. But I do keep certain things to myself because they are very, very tender, and I don't share them even with my partners. But what I didn't know was that by him showing up the way that he did all the time, and even after when we had our moments, like he would show up so like intentional and purposeful, and I was just like, oh wow. And so after a while, we were just so safe in it with each other that, you know, he would tell me something, and I'd be like, it's fine, you know, like, feel it for the moment, it's fine. Same thing with me. Like, if he even saw me looking a certain way, he noticed I was a little different, he was like right there. And he learned, like, here's the thing too, when somebody really is, I think, like I said, intentional and purposeful about you, is that he learned when I needed words, and when I just needed comfort, and I needed him to be there. And so and the same thing for him. Like, I just could look at him, and there would be days I would just look at him, and I could tell, and I would just be like, I would open up my arms, and that's where I came up with the, all right, come here, just lay in my bosom. And he would just fall into my chest and just lay there, and I would just hold him or whatever. And it didn't matter or whatever. So I knew that that's what he needed. And like, that's just, we learned to operate with each other in that way. When I was really, really down and stuff like that, he would cuddle up like right under my neck, which is where like, that is it is a sensitive spot for me. I don't know what it is about my neck or whatever, but in a very arousing and sensual way, it's that too, but in a very comforting way when I just need somebody to be there. I would like to nestle in the neck, but if you nestle up under my neck the right way, like, and I can rest my cheek on yours, like, there's just a level of comfort that happens there for me. And we just learned each other in that way when words weren't even needed or whatever, or necessary or whatever. So it just taught me so much, and I never had that kind of love, and I never had that kind of rhythm, and I never had that kind of intensity in love and rhythm with anybody. And so it was just the most beautiful thing. And when he did do something, I knew his intentions were not to be harmful. Like, if we did have a moment, I knew he didn't mean for it to happen. Like, there are some people out here that want to get their lick back. They want to prove a point. They want to be, they want to, feel like the king, or they want to feel, superior in some way. I never got that from him, not a single time in our relationship, that he wanted to be an authority over me or anything. He just wanted to be with me. in all the ways that he could be with me. And so I wanted to be with him equally. It made me want to be with him equally. And so when I say again, like it grew me in so many different ways, but definitely like in my ability to love and be loved. Like I will never stop saying that. And I will forever give him, unless something else comes along that is just like much more powerful, but I will forever give him credit for that because like it takes a very special person to get inside me like that. And it takes a very special person to get me to be soft and tender without feeling like if I let my guard down, you're going to do something or I'm going to have to put it right back up. You know what I'm saying? Nuck if you buck kind of thing. But I was able to be like as vulnerable, as soft. I was able to be hard when I, when I bossed up, I bossed up. Like he just was cool with all of it and he supported every single thing. And I could tell that he wasn't doing it just because he felt obligated. He genuinely wanted me to be happy. And I genuinely wanted him to be happy. And I was always like cheerleading, like, yo, what do you want to do? Like, what are your dreams? Like, you want to do the graphic thing, do the graphic thing. Like, you want the thing, do that or whatever. I don't care. Do whatever. So I used to tell him, like, I don't care. We do have an age difference and that's fine. Like, if you want to collect whatever you want to collect it. Like, that's your thing. Like, do your thing, 21. Like, I created a whole space for him because he wouldn't do it. I was like, nah. He's like, no, I don't need it. I was like, please, like, we're gonna represent you too up in here. And so I would just incorporate his things in there because, like, yeah, I want you to feel good about it too. This ain't just about me. But I didn't know that I could feel that way for another guy. I didn't know I could feel that way for anybody else. I mean, besides my daughter or whatever, like, she's the only other person that has infiltrated me in a very deep way. Like she was the first person to infiltrate my heart in a deep way and challenge my connections because I've always been kind of very I used to think of myself as like a computer in the way that I process things. Everything has to be logical, and there's a there's a reason for everything, and I always want to figure out the reason for everything. And so love was tricky for me just from the beginning, y'all. It was just tricky for me for the very beginning because in my mind, even to this day though, not love necessarily, I get it now, but just everything in my life, it has to make sense. I'm like, I gotta analyze it. Why do people think like that? Why is that happening? That doesn't make sense. Like my brain has always been that way. But my daughter was the first person to crack the love code for me to be like, wait a minute, like this doesn't have to like be a thinking moment. This just needs to be a feeling moment. And so that's what I had to do. My daughter started that. But as far as like romantically, um, it felt really good to be in that space with him that I just didn't even know was possible. It wasn't that I was trying to put it off or avoid it. It just never happened for me. So it really informed my thinking on my love being or me being able to see love and experience love. It just made me understand that it was just different, like my pathway to it was just different, but that it was possible for me to experience like a very deep meaningful love because I was beginning to think my whole life I was like, there's no way I'm not experiencing what everybody else is. But being with him really opened up that possibility. And I was like, okay, I'm not just some computer. Like I don't have like a frozen heart. It's just it takes the right person to bring it out. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, got it. But I learned so much in that relationship. And then also the other thing, since I'm being here with it, the other thing is going through depression with somebody in a relationship. I was still dealing with effects of depression. I was still, like I mentioned, prior, I was in therapy, before I met him because I was dealing with a lot of stuff that was just really plaguing my mind and stuff. And so I was going through depression, and at first I didn't even realize it was happening. Like I didn't realize it was happening, and when I realized what it was, because I was doing therapy, but I wasn't doing any medication at the time. But I remember on one day, we were living together. We were in a house that we were renting, and I was downstairs cleaning up. He was upstairs in the bedroom or whatever, and I just was listening to music. Mary J. Blige was playing, and I just sank behind the couch and I balled up just crying, 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 crying. And I remember being on the floor crying, and I was like, "Why am I crying? Like I have no idea why." That is really what I remember. I was like, "I do not remember. I don't know why am I crying? Why am I crying?" At the time, my career was good. We were in Ohio. My life was good. My life was simple. I had a man that loved and cared for me. My daughter was in the house. We had two dogs. Like I was close to my family. There was literally no reason for me to be sad about anything. Like nothing. I was doing a reiteration of LGT where I was talking about popular topics. Like at the time, I was like, there is no reason for me to be depressed. Like, why am I down here crying? But I just had this overwhelming like sensation and it just took over. And I remember him standing at the top of the stairs and he looked and at first he was like, babe. And then he looked and then I kind of just, I took my hand, like, cause I had my hand like, I was sitting like curled up and then I had my head like between like with my knees and my hands. And he was like, babe. And then I looked up at him and I guess he just could see it in my face. And so he ran down the stairs and he got down on the floor and he just held me until I stopped crying. Like he literally held me. He kissed me on my forehead and stuff like he always does. And he just held me until I stopped crying. And then when I was done, he was like, like what's going on? Like da da da, very, very attentive and stuff like that. But to have somebody love you, especially in those moments to me, which were, I have never been that vulnerable around anybody. And I mean anybody, nobody, never been that vulnerable. I wouldn't allow myself to be that vulnerable. And a part of me does feel like it's weakness. I'm not gonna lie. Some part of me being in every relationship in every aspect, there's only so far I'm willing to go because I do see vulnerability in me, not anybody else. I see vulnerability in me as a weakness. And that day, it was like the veil had been completely lifted. I had already been through a series of feelings, emotions, and growth with him or whatever. But that day, it's like the veil completely lifted and when it did, right, he could have been one of those people that was like, yo, I'm not, nope. Or somebody who could have been like, I'm about to take advantage. He absolutely did not. Like, he showed up even more at that point. He was like, I know I don't usually do certain things, but like, babe, I got you. You need this, I got you. And I remember he made me this coupon book and it had just like all kinds of stuff in it. It had some adult stuff in it, but it had like foot rubs. It had like snuggles because I'm always like, I want to snuggle. I want to snuggle. That's one of my little cute little things. Like, let's snuggle, baby. Let's snuggle. And so he just made a coupon book and gave it to me. And I was just like, this is so crazy. But the joy from him just doing that, I was like, you are so serious, like for real, for real. And he's like, no, I can't cook, but there's a coupon in there for me to cook too. I'll do whatever. But like he literally made this book for me to like cash in these coupons and stuff like, cutting the yard and like other stuff that, I just shouldn't have been doing anyway. He's like, you should be doing this stuff anyway, but I'm gonna do extra. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But it just like he just kept showing up, like trying to make sure that I was okay, making sure that I stayed okay, making sure that he showered me with love and affection, which is what I really needed. But he didn't look at me any different. Like the same thing I did for him, I guess he was definitely giving it back to me like tenfold because in those moments where he was really shutting down and he really wasn't able to, you know what I mean, move past his stuff. I just would stay there and I never judged him. And I think that was his way of giving it back to me like, yo, like I've been and I think we talked about it, but I believe that was his way of like, I'm giving you back every bit of love that you gave to me because I want you to know I never forgot it. And it made me feel really good and I didn't feel stigmatized about going through depression. I didn't feel stigmatized about medication or anything like that. Like he was there, he was like, yo, I got you, whatever you need, I got you. And he showed up every single time, every single time. So, I know people are probably like, well, are you still in love with him? No. But I can still speak on him very fondly because the majority of the 5 years that we were together, I mean, actually all of it, to be honest with you, was amazing. And I didn't feel any less loved throughout the tenure of our relationship. It's just that at the ends, you know, you know what I mean? Like he was 23, 24 when we met. I was 31. I think that math makes sense. I fully anticipated that he would at some point realize who he was, and then he would need to go out and explore who he had become. And I had always set myself up from day one, and me and him had conversations about that. Because if it were to ever happen, I didn't want it to be like, oh, we waited until we got here to address it, or how that would look, or how I would feel, or whatever. I always wanted to make sure that if he got to an age where he was like, I've become a completely different man and I need to go figure that out, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't hold agency or ownership over any person. Like, you're not my possession. You know, you're meant for me for the time that we are meant to be together, and I for you. And when we're not, our paths have just changed and our destinies have realigned in a different way. So me and him had plenty of conversations about what that would look like, or should look like, or I hoped it would look like. Now, it didn't happen in the way that I thought it would. You know what I mean? It could have been a bit better. However, up until the very end, like, I felt nothing but love and support. I did nothing but love and support him uh in our situation or whatever. And I didn't let one moment define a series of moments for us. I just did not. Like, yeah, one day I woke up and yeah, the situation was what it was. I dealt with it that day and we moved on. And so that's what I did. And one day doesn't define the other, I don't know, hundreds of days that we spent together, nor does it change like the trajectory of how we've loved and how we evolved in the situation. To me, that's a win-win. If there's one day or one moment for me out of all of the moments that I had with him, I'll gladly, if I had to do it again, I would gladly do the whole thing over again. I really would. Like, if it was like, if God came down today and said, Michael, in order for you to, move on, move forward, whatever, I need you to go back and do this again. I'd be like, all of it, all of it. I'd do it all again with him. No, no problem at all. I'd do it all again. And it's not that I want to be with him or anything like that. It's just that our relationship was not perfect in the sense that it was rainbows, cotton candies, and stuff every day. But everything in our relationship had meaning. Everything in our relationship had love attached to it, and it had the right intentions to it. And so, yeah, sometimes it went crazy, but at the core of it, it was good. And I'm thankful for that relationship. I'm thankful to him for loving me the way he did. I'm extremely grateful that he trusted me with his heart, because I know it was hard. I know it was hard because I could see it in him. I know it's hard because in me, I know it was probably hell on him sometimes too, but it was important for me and it was necessary for me to go through. And so when I say that he was the greatest love I had, I mean that with every fiber of my being. That the love, the experiences, the time that we shared, the moments that created, everything that came from it was really, really great. The greatest love I've had, hands down, so far. And so I'm just appreciative that God gave me that. Like, I thank God now, Lord, thank you. And I use that as kind of a pinhole or a preview into what could be later on down the line. Because when I pray to God that my husband, my partner, comes along, I'm always like, listen, Lord, you already showed me one time what a fraction of the love and the relationship and the compassion could be. You showed me a fraction of it. You see how I said that? I said, Lord, you showed me a fraction, meaning he gave me a small piece, and that whatever out there is next is going to be the biggest and the best. And I'm like, so Lord, if this is just a mere fraction of it, I can't wait to see when you give me the whole of it. And I have that 5 years, 5.5 years, I have that to thank for reshaping the way that I love, but it also reshaped the way that I date and the way that I move now at almost 40. And so, like I said, we broke up in 2023 and now it is 2026. And I'm two and a half, little over 2.5 years, uh, 2.5 years, single. And a large portion of that is because I can't even look at people the same way. You know what I'm saying? And it's not comparing them necessarily to him, but to the experience. I can't even look at people that way. Like if you're not showing up and really showing up, I can't do it. If you're not meeting me at the level of love, expectation, and expansion that I'm willing to, I can't do it with you. You know what I'm saying? It's not about showing up, having everything or knowing everything. That's one of the lessons too. You don't have to come knowing and having all of it, but you do have to come willing to expand and willing to be all of it and become all of it, which is what I believe happened in that relationship. We didn't know, we had to figure it out. But when you want to show up and you really do show up and you want to expand and you want to be all in, your actions show it. So I can't deal with somebody at 40. Number one, I'm getting too old. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting too old and I ain't got another 5.5 years to really waste on somebody. I'm not saying that that was wasted, but I ain't got another 5.5 years to give away because I'm gonna run out of 5.5 years. You feel what I'm saying? So I say all that to say that, it changed love. It changed the way that I look at dating, how I expect people to show up, and just like also how I show up for other people as well. Because I think one of the things that I took away was I pushed a lot, and I was well intended, but I pushed. And my pushing can be very, very like direct and like to it, and sometimes that's not what you need, even as a man, right? Sometimes that's not what you need. Sometimes you need that tenderness. And that's something that I had to learn too, is that I'm in boss mode because my career has demanded me to be in boss mode most of the time. And so that carried on into my relationships. And while nobody else ever checked that while I was moving on, they may have run away or they may have shut down or whatever their thing was. Most of them ran away. But this one was a little bit different, right? Like I was like, yeah, this is not the approach that you use because even the manliest of men need like that tender love and care. And so me being a hard ass or me being a boss is not what they need. And honestly, it's what's pushing them away. And I realized I was like, damn, how many people have I done that to? You know what I mean? Almost treating them like an employee or something. So I was like, damn, like how many people did I do? But I just pushed because I wanted the best. And I pushed because I wanted to get to what I wanted to get to. And I didn't think like as men we needed the tender. I didn't think first of all I didn't get the tenderness first, so I didn't have a lens for what it felt like until this man gave it. The last man gave it to me, and then I was like, But also I had to give it to him, and so I mean, again, like I say, when you show up for each other, you learn about each other, and so that's what we did. But that's something I will forever take with me into other situations because I met a guy I met a guy most recently, towards the end of 2025, and he would be the first person that I ever had a instant connection with. And so, yeah, he was somebody that, like I said, I had a very instant, deep connection with, and it wasn't planned or anything like that. It just kind of happened. And honestly, I will say it felt, when I say deeper, it felt like a very spiritual connection. And that is something that was newer for me in the context of like romance and truthfully masculine energy. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about necessarily like appearances or anything like that. I'm talking about the energy exchange of, and how it really made me feel and how it touched certain parts of me, but like also like as we were moving in each other's spiritual space and spiritual energy, just how we operated with each other felt to me so different. And so I'm not gonna go too much into it this time because that's not what this story is about, but we'll talk about this one on the next podcast. But if I could leave you with something from this particular story, is that number one, a single moment should never define a series of moments that you had, right? Like one bad moment doesn't overwrite or erase all of the good ones that you had. And I know that's easier said than done because we typically operate in a dynamic where the last thing you did was either the best or the worst thing you've done. But that's not the case. There's like a whole history of love, energy, feelings, and all that that have to be accounted for too. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I would say, operating like your bank account, right? Like all the money you put into it is still built up, but if a large deposit comes out, that still doesn't take away from what's still sitting there. Now, if you ain't got no money in there and your account is negative, hell, you ain't got much to be doing anyway, and you just need to sew up the whole thing. No, I'm just playing. But in a sense of like all of those deposits that were made in the love and romance bank, all of those still mean something, even though the last deposit, I mean, or the last transaction was a big takeaway or a big you know uh, reduction or whatever the case may be. Maybe that's not wasn't the best analogy, but you get where I was going with it. But anyway, I want to leave you with that. I want to leave you with also, if you are struggling with love, how to accept it, how to give it like I was, and maybe the possibility of. I would just say like be open to doing the work and be open to the real that has to happen. It doesn't mean that you guys have to come to the table knowing everything and it being perfect, but when things get real and you have to sift through the real, that's when either people run, regress, or, you know, hide or whatever they do or whatever. But it's at those moments where you decide like, I want to move forward with this person and we're going to have to deal with the very, very deep, very, very real stuff. And we're just going to go through it. Whatever we break, we'll fix. Whatever is torn, we will repair. And whatever is lacking, we will build. And that is just what it needs to be. And hopefully, if you go into it with that sentiment, you will have something like I have that I can thank God for every day. I can positively reminisce on and stuff like that, and also use it for a catalyst to what my love at the end of the day or at the end of my lifetime will be. So I thank you all for listening today, and I thank you for the time. Go out there and love on yourself before you can love somebody else. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace and love, y'all. Bye.